And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. Who is the rider on the white horse in that verse of Scripture in Revelation chapter 6, verse 2? What does that mysterious prophecy mean? Can we know? Can we rightly decipher the symbolism in that single verse of Scripture? It is commonly assumed, as it is widely taught, that the rider on the white horse in that passage of Scripture signifies the appearing of the Antichrist. But that interpretation does not stand up to careful examination. It is not supported by any logically consistent explanation. In this episode of Prophecy Guide, you will see for yourself why that interpretation is not correct. You will also learn why it is unspeakably important that we must know the truth about the meaning of the seven seals in the book of the Revelation. The prophecy involving a rider on a white horse in Revelation chapter 6 is the first in a series of prophecies collectively known as the seven seals. The rider on a white horse belongs to the first of those seven seals. Those seals were introduced in the previous chapter, that is, the 5th chapter of the book of the Revelation, where we find that Jesus Christ received a very special book that was sealed with 7 seals. Christ, we're also told, was the only one who was worthy to open those seals and thus to reveal the contents of that very special book. Then, in chapter 6 of the Revelation, we see Jesus as he opens those seals one at a time. As he does so, we learn that each seal contains a different prophecy or judgment that is set in motion in order as each of those seals is opened in succession of time. The 7 seals thus describe a series of world-impacting events and circumstances, all of which are undeniably connected with the soon-coming judgment of the world, a time that the Bible calls the day of the Lord. By the way, the Bible never once refers to that time period as the tribulation or the Great Tribulation. Those man-made labels have caused a lot of confusion for many well-meaning students of Bible prophecy. Throughout the Bible, in both the Old Testament and the New, that brief period of time when God shall judge this present world is always called the day of the Lord. By far, the most important question regarding the 7 seals has to do with when do the judgments of the 7 seals occur? Do they occur before the day of the Lord begins or after the day of the Lord has already begun? As you will soon realize, the answer to that question is all important. I want to start then by proving that the rider on the white horse, shown in connection with the first seal, is not the Antichrist. Understanding this one verse of Scripture is perhaps the single most important key, without which the door that leads to a right understanding of Bible prophecy cannot be opened. I repeat, the importance of correctly interpreting this one verse of Scripture cannot be overemphasized. The proof I just alluded to is discovered by looking closely at the first 4 of the 7 seals, which are probably much better known as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Let's first look at the Scripture then, beginning in Revelation chapter 6, reading from verses 1 through verse 8. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, saying, Come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse. And he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him. And he went forth conquering, and to conquer. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. As you've just heard, each of the first 4 seals involves a differently colored horse. The first seal has a white horse. The second seal, a red horse. The third seal, a black one. And in the fourth seal, there appears a pale-colored horse. Now, upon each of those respective horses sits a different rider. We'll come back to that in just a moment. First, though, I want to stress the necessity of interpreting the meaning of symbols in the Bible consistently. God uses symbolic language in Scripture to communicate specific meaning. If we attribute a certain meaning to a certain symbol in one place in Scripture, but we assign a different meaning to that same symbol at another place in Scripture, the result is confusion, and God is not the author of confusion. Back to those riders. Most prophecy teachers insist that the rider on the white horse in the first seal is none other than the Antichrist, by which they mean, of course, a certain real individual. All right then, if we agree with most prophecy teachers that the symbol of a rider on the white horse means or signifies a certain real individual, then we have to agree that all of the riders on all of the horses must be real individuals. If we say that the rider on any one horse is an actual person, then we must consistently interpret the symbolism to mean that all of the riders must be actual persons. And we must embrace that conclusion if we hold to the rule that symbols must be interpreted consistently. And right there is the problem. You see, there are 4 horses, but there are not 4 riders. In fact, there are 5 riders. The 4th horse has 2 riders, and those 2 riders are the only ones whose names we're given. Well, perhaps those riders are real individuals after all. I mean, the Bible gives us their names, right? But I would not want to meet face to face in some dark alleyway with either of those 2 individuals riding the pale-colored horse of the 4th seal. One whose name is Death, and the other rider whose name is Hell. Let's read it again. And when he had opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the 4th part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. The text plainly indicates two riders, and power was given unto them. Are death and hell the names of two actual persons who are going to destroy a fourth part of the earth, nearly 2 billion people? And not merely with the sword and with hunger, but with the beasts of the earth? What are they going to do? Send millions of lions and crocodiles to roam the streets of cities all around the world? Is that how two individuals are going to kill 2 billion people? It is absurd to suggest that the two riders on the pale horse are actual persons. Of course they're not. How is it then that the rider on the white horse is nevertheless supposed to be an actual person, when clearly none of the other riders are real individuals? The first seal in Revelation chapter 6 does not signify a real person. The first seal does not signify the appearing of the Antichrist. In the next video that will appear on the Prophecy Guide channel, you will learn the true meaning of the first seal. But before we conclude this episode, I want you to understand something about what chaos has resulted in the world of Bible prophecy studies, just because the meaning of the first seal has been wrongly interpreted by many. Those many who insist that the first seal indicates the appearing of the Antichrist. What is the next step in their thinking, would you suppose, that such a conclusion naturally leads them to take? If the Antichrist appears on the scene when the first seal is opened, what else could that mean except the first seal must also signify the beginning of the tribulation, which from now on, we're going to call it, as the Bible does, the day of the Lord. But in truth, the first seal does not indicate the beginning of the day of the Lord, no more than it indicates the appearing of the Antichrist. The result of careless Bible prophecy teaching results in something much worse than confusion. It results in false doctrine. And false doctrine is spiritual darkness. The judgments contained in the 7 seals together form a dependent series, which means that their respective fulfillment must occur in order of time, in the same order that those prophecies appear in Scripture. Therefore, it is imperative that the first seal must be rightly interpreted, because if the first seal is wrongly interpreted, then every other seal after that cannot be rightly understood. It becomes a cascade of errors. It is like falling off of a cliff after the first wrong step. It is all downhill from there.